All right, good evening. This is going to be lesson number 9 of the Civil War. We're going to talk about the border states this evening. This would be page 11 of the new notes. Now, the border states were the states of Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and West Virginia. When Virginia leaves the Union, the 16 northwestern counties of, at that time, Virginia, had the fewest number of slaves and the largest population of poor white farmers. And so this group, with the poor white farmers and also a group of miners and some industrial laborers, want to remain with the Union because they feel that they are not going to benefit in the new Confederacy. And so they leave and they petition the U.S. government to enter the Union. In order to make a new state from parts of an old state, the old state had to approve of that division according to the Constitution. Virginia, having left the Union, does not get the opportunity to approve, and so West Virginia is approved by Congress as a state in 1861. Now, the border states were crucial to the cause of the Union because Maryland surrounds Washington, D.C. If Virginia leaves and Maryland leaves, then the capital is going to be completely cut off from the rest of the Union, which would really hamper the war effort. The capital could move, but the resources that the U.S. government had in the capital would remain there, and it would be very difficult to get everyone out if Maryland just one day decided to leave. And so it was crucial that Maryland had to stay for that reason. Kentucky had a large number of free whites, and they contribute a number of soldiers to the Union cause. Missouri, on the other hand, is out west, and it was important for Missouri to stay in the Union because it gave control of the Mississippi River up to that point to the Union. After that, the Mississippi River was going to flow down into the South. To have Illinois cut off essentially from the river meant that it would be very difficult to get troops further to the South. Having to fight both Kentucky for the Ohio River and Missouri for the Mississippi River would make travel on that river almost impossible for Union forces. And so it's essential that Missouri stays as well. Because this split occurs between slave states, that meant that a number of people who were related to each other who had moved into these slave states to start plantations of their own were cut off from the rest of their family. This is where we get the idea of brother fighting brother. But it was essential that Lincoln hold on to the slave states. This is why the first part of the war, up until 1863, does not cover the issue of slavery. We've talked about slavery an awful lot in class and how slavery was the main point of contention between the North and the South. But what it really comes down to is a state's right to declare that slavery is legal or illegal. The South saw that if they can declare slavery illegal, then it is going to be the big, bad, strong central government from Washington, D.C. controlling most of the issues in the state. And so Lincoln declares that this war is not about slavery. He tells Horace Greeley that if I could fight the war without freeing a single slave, I would. If I could win the war by freeing all the slaves, I would. If I could keep the Union together by freeing some slaves and leaving other slaves where they are, I would do that too. And so his main goal is not to end slavery. His main goal is to keep the Union together. It is only later in the war, in 1863, that Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation, which starts the ball rolling on freeing slaves. Lincoln will declare martial law in some states, which means that the military is in charge of the government, essentially, that the military would serve as the police force for those state governments, and he did essentially whatever he could in order to keep those border states from leaving, because they were so essential both geographically and strategically. Out to the further west, the Indians end up siding with the Confederacy because they felt like a weaker central government of the Confederacy was going to help to guarantee their rights better than the strong central government of Washington, D.C., and a united nation of the United States. And so the major tribes that side with the Confederacy are the Cherokees. The Cherokees had been moved further out west and had taken on the Western idea of holding slaves themselves, and so they use their land in order to start plantations. The Creeks, the Choctaws, the Chickasaws, and the Seminoles. The Seminoles originally started south in Florida and were forcibly moved out to the west. And so with the large state of Texas controlling the western end of the United States and controlling essentially a big section of what would become the middle of the country, the Indian tribes that are out there also join the Confederacy. This essentially cuts off California from sending a lot of troops to the main fighting in the east. But there are battles that occur in the New Mexico territory, in what would become Colorado, in what would become Nevada, and also in California itself. And so the Union was hoping to get the gold from out west, but they were also hoping to cut off California, because that would be a large number of soldiers that the Union couldn't use in its main fight out to the east. And so we reviewed today how West Virginia became a state, the importance of Maryland, the importance of Missouri and Kentucky, and we also reviewed Lincoln's goal for the war, which was to keep the Union together and not necessarily end slavery. And so we'll move on from here and talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each, and get us caught up on the Civil War.